Hello everyone and welcome back to another match of Beyond All Reason. I just absolutely had to bring you this one because I think it's going to be a blast. So today, spawning on the western side of Coastlines Dry, the red commander that goes by the name of X1, X2. Gonna be spawning on the high grounds right here on the back line of the red team, all the way across the map. Commander, you may well know, it's yours truly, the one and only TNT Brightworks himself. Happy to be here. Very happy to be here. So I wanted to show you this match because it was an absolute epitome of what I consider to be a fun game of Beyond All Reason. It had an epic back and forth battle, had some really awesome plays, had some really fun stuff, and I wanted to take a look through my own lens so that I could show you exactly what's going on in my mind as I'm walking through this game here. Also had some phenomenal plays from some of my teammates as well, so I just really wanted to watch this one back and show it to you guys. So, now that we've met our team leaders, this map is called Coastlines Dry. It's a pretty bizarre one because it's got all these little hills in the middle of the map. Makes it very difficult to traverse with vehicles across some of those hillsides, but there's also a lot of really open, flat area where vehicles can become really, really powerful. So I'm expecting to see some vehicles and whatnot around here. Despite playing in this match, I can assure you it was so action-packed that I didn't even get a chance to look at what my teammates were doing. So I'm going to try and spend a little bit of time looking at what goes on the southern side of the map here. Going to be ruled mostly by hexadecimal, prime tamum. All right, Link 74 and Atlas Failed here, going up against Easy AI, Corrupt Lord, or Creep Lord, Spiral ID, or Spiraled, sorry, and Timiesner, the Orange Commander. Already getting some ticks out as well. You can see I've got some ticks going out across the map. It's one of those things that I always recommend Armada commanders do in case you're wondering on what your early game build order should look like. This is one of my favorites. You go for 2 early ticks, and you can send both of them across the map. I only sent one this time, just mostly to spare APM. I don't have too much of it, so I gotta use it effectively here. You then go into a res bot and then 2 constructor bots, and then you can use those to start building up your economy, and you can send the commander forward relatively safely. Sometimes I like to put down an LLT as well to help with base defense if it's really necessary, but other than that, those 2 constructors in base are going to be wonderful. Tick across the map, you can see I'm microing it. Microing my heart out here, trying to look for metal extractors. I do find 2 from Anxiety here, who's got the maroon color today. That tick does find the metal extractors. Commander is microed backwards here, but the tick has already blasted away at 2 of these metal extractors. Does get the second metal extractor kill, and that's 500 metal apiece. 100 metal total on those metal extractors. Nicely done. Rebuilding those almost immediately here. Getting to put those back together, so at least no more metal is going to be lost as far as the maroon commander goes. Tick being microed into the back here. You can see the plan, right? We're sending the tick on a little bit of a warpath here, but nicely done by X1, X2, getting some units out to try and deal with this. At this point, I was microing back on the other side of the map, and the tick does go down. Either way, though, happy with that amount of damage, because it does, at the very least, relieve a little bit of metal from the line right here for us to deal with. Me and Sergeant Jim Bean, who are going to be playing hand-in-hand today as we work together. Who wants this? Calls Destromech. I think it's all yours, buddy. Build power coming up right here. Especially with the wind speed sticking up so high right here, it does mean that we can afford to go into some of those more energy-dense structures, like the build tower. We could also go for advanced solar panels, but not the case here. Just going to go for a whole bunch of wind turbines. Now that the construction power is up, going into wind turbines makes a whole lot of sense because it will help finish these off pretty quickly here. Once the construction turret latches onto a wind turbine, it's only about 5 seconds. Couple of grunts moving across the map right here. Really nicely done. Yeah, they're looking for any engagement they can find here. Blitz is being pumped out by the dark green commander here on the southern side of the map. We do have some counter pawns being pushed out as well, and they will intercept those grunts, so very nicely done. Shutting that down and rendering that push asunder. Spiral D pulling the grunts back here, realizing there's not really much to do, and indeed, I think that's probably the right decision here. Retreating the grunt up to the high ground here, lovely play as well. That Blitz cannot follow over there, so that's a really nice way to save that unit. Orange commander pushing pretty far here as well, and capturing a whole lot of this position. So this is something that I was trying to experiment with. Something I want to get a whole lot better at is using transports to move the commander forward here. So you can see beautiful scouting by our air player here, the green commander. Sends forward a single bomber, sends forward a single scout right here. Yeah, nicely done. Sends it into the back line. Gonna get a perfect view of exactly what's going on, using the bomber to deliver a payload to whatever it can. Oh, not quite gonna connect with those wind turbines, but that's all right. Still very valuable for the scouting information because now we know exactly where Anxiety is building up at. There we go, transporting my commander forward just to try and claim these 2 metal extractors. I have lofty plans for this game. You can see the ticks have been pushed out here. Little grunt wave has been pushed back on this side. Very good to see. I think those grunts might have been able to push into this, but with those ticks in the mix, it would have been very, very difficult to push into that because those ticks would have done friendly, or would have done counter fire, right? They would have shot from behind, surrounded. Bonus damage is pretty severe in this game. It's about 90% increase to damage, so 190% damage total. I usually don't like using those percentages. Those can be a little bit confusing at times. So basically double damage is the way that I like to think about it. Sergeant Jim Bean building some radar towers as well as a couple of spy towers over here. That's really nice to see. Metal extractors as well coming up. Always very powerful. Anxiety going for 2 ticks, by the way. Snipe a metal extractor right here. Finding an opening path, or an open path rather. Always important to try and find those wherever you can, and just like that, 2 metal extractors down. Easily repaying the cost of these ticks over here. Anxiety has a constructor on the front line, so maybe thinking about going for some of that heavy artillery. We do have a shared reclaim over here. Looks like some spy bots got a little bit handy. A little bit handsy, rather. Yeah, trying to eat up somebody else's corpse right there. A little uncouth. Aggravators on the southern side trying to, well, kind of dance around each other here. Like I said, this hillside is very complicated. Very, very tricky to maneuver units around on this thing, so moving the grunts up over the hills and the aggravators around on the sides and everything can be very tricky to actually manage your army and figure out where exactly the appropriate response is going to be. At this point, you can see I've got quite an LLT forest here, just trying to make it very inconvenient for Tuck to push forward. Don't want those grunts to feel like they can ever step forward into this, otherwise they're going to be obliterated by light laser fire. Orange Commander doing a great job of denying all this. That being said, doesn't have this metal extractor right here. I'd love to see this claimed and then set up some LLTs forward on both of these sides right here. I think that might be the best way to secure this lower area right here and guarantee that metal advantage. Right now, you've basically got the even split. Now, denying that metal is obviously important. It means that it's not going back to the Green Commander, but you might as well take it yourself, am I right? Feigning with my pawns up here. This is a move that I've started to get into the habit of doing. Set the pawns on a big repeat command and just have them marching back and forth up here. Makes them sort of fade in and out of radar vision. It makes it appear like there's big army movements going on over here. Can really fake the enemy opponents into making some more aggravated decisions than otherwise would be absolutely necessary. Resbot's out now too, trying to use these to eat up whatever they can. Agitator coming up right here. Loads and loads of pounders. Going to be really difficult for the pawns to deal with. The thugs, however, have a decent chance against them. Thugs can out micro the pounders there if they just move within range. You can see the range of the thug 380 versus the range of the pounder tank just 315. So they can get into a nice little engagement right here. Very nicely done. Keep them just on the edge. Very nice. Yeah, take down one of those pounder. Second one will fall as well. Third one in a whole lot of trouble. Well, they were starting to connect though. Oh man, that AoE damage. That splash damage is brutal. Eventually they do all fall. But man, it does come at a heavy cost. Tanks going down right there. I send in the resbots to try and resurrect, and this will be a common theme for the rest of this game here. Trying to resurrect here, but I think reclaiming might have been the better option so that we could just push forward and grab this agitator. It's almost up right here. So much metal going into this thing, but it is in a really killer position. It can fire away at all these LOTs, can fire well down into this southern area over here. Pretty brutal position. Heavy laser tower has been also set up, blasting away at a whole bunch of these Lazarus over here. Just like that. Agitator comes up. We've also got Dragon's Maw, pop-up flamethrower turrets to try and help with this. Always a little bit uncomfortable, and here you go. This is that forward vehicle bay. I was thinking about, maybe this is an effective way to siege this position over here, getting some of these forward shell shockers here to try and fire away at a lot of these. Making it very uncomfortable to stand in the hellfire from these shell shockers, raining down artillery from above. And this is another thing that ends up, this is one of those things that I was thinking, you know what, I never really used one of these. Maybe I should give it a try here. So actually going for one of the groundhogs, the mine layer here, and thinking about how I could use this tactfully. And one of the things I noticed is there's a whole lot of open space over here. So making a groundhog, sticking those landmines in the choke points over here. You can see me queuing them up all over the place, trying to find big open areas and putting landmines all over the place so that it makes very difficult for runaway units to actually push into that area. One of the other things that I noticed about shell shockers, little micro tip for everybody. When you have the shell shockers, one of the things you can do is turn them off fire at will. set them on hold fire, and then you'll have them all fire a single concentrated volley. And oftentimes they can be a whole lot of a better way to break a fortified position rather than firing the kind of continuous stream like you see right here. Also good for sniping specific units. If you notice that your enemy's units are sitting still over here, you can oftentimes use that to your advantage. You can see I'm going for a little bit of metal storage and energy storage in the back line, getting ready to basically go for T2 here, getting a little more build power, and the T2 lab is already queued up, hoping that eventually, with this force of units here, this can eventually turn into a, yeah, proper T2 army. Important to micro back the shell shockers. Don't want them to get obliterated. Southern side, facing the wrath of a whole lot of vehicles. Yeah, we have tons of missile trucks and tons of blitzes. Very, very dangerous on that southern side. An excellent push by Link 74, who does have this very forward ground right here, but it's extremely exposed. There's so many runaway paths. You can imagine grunts running through these hills right here would appear in the backline and do tons and tons of damage. We do have reinforcing grunts coming up at the back at the very least. But yeah, that is a risky path. Very, very difficult to hold on to. Big build up of units over here, as we do see indeed a whole bunch of these, whole bunch of aggravators and thugs, all sorts of different stuff building up over there. There you go, you can see these units now on hold fire. Trying to use these as a way to blast down some of the static defenses over here. T2 hounds do hit the field though. Those hounds are troubling. You'll see almost immediately, as soon as those hounds hit the field, I know this isn't going to be an efficient fight. So the best course of action is just to retreat, use these landmines to recover. There you go, you can see the landmines have been built all over the place. Genesis trying to connect with these hounds. Not an ideal engagement right there, but it's about the best you can do with T1. Yeah, those Janices going down pretty efficiently right here. Excellent micro by X1, X2. Using those hounds to lay on the pressure right here. As you can see, I eat up this lab. Go for a little bit of reclaim as well. Trying to reclaim as many of these shell shockers as possible. Very, very tricky. Those shell shockers are quite expensive. Having to D-gun through them, also not ideal. Obliterating my own forces right there. Commander is forced off the line. Just like that. All this army is devastated. Commander forced into hiding here. So shell shocker rains down shells upon the enemy right here, but as for right now, basically the only escape here is with the transport. So you can see I pick up the commander. One of the things that I'm being very conscientious of is when I move the transport, I'm lifting it up and waiting a second to see if anything's going to shoot it out of the sky before picking up the commander, just to be sure. T2 lab almost finished right here. Groundhog almost done laying its web of mines as well. And I'm essentially relying on these landmines as the way to stall all these units from pushing forward, right? So if they push northward into this direction, they're going to find some late landmines. If they push into this choke point, they're going to find some landmines. The only area that was pretty exposed was over here. Definitely could have done more to put landmines over on this side of the map, but right now the red team has a huge advantage with these Sheldon now coming out, as well as the hounds firing away. There's those radar jammer bots as well, keeping this all well misted in the fog of war, as well as providing a whole lot of vision, making this very, very comfortable for the red team to push forward here. Those hounds are on a collision course for all the forces up on the northern side. Jim Bean and myself in a little bit of trouble here. T2 lab comes up, T2 constructor comes out. Definitely very greedy, with T2 units pushing in at every turn. Definitely a little bit greedy to go for those, yeah, go for those T2 constructors. I had faith in the landmines though. I knew the landmines would hold out for long enough. Resbot's trying to keep Sergeant Jim Bean's commander alive. There's not enough energy to cloak it and move it around, unfortunately. And that will be the commander going down right here as the hounds fire one more volley. Purple commander does fall on the northern side. That was definitely scary. You can see my commander's positioned up on the northern side. I'm going to move it back here. I think probably up into this northern area is probably a better idea. Yeah, there we go. Gonna park it over on this hillside, trying to use it as a bit of a last line of defense. Resbot's here eating up all the wreckage as well. Very, very important. Feeding so much of that metal back to the red team. There we go, though. Those medium landmines do connect with a whole bunch of those hounds. And boom, just like that, the landmines saved me a little bit of time right there. It's not the end of the world, but those landmines definitely turned out to be very effective, so it's important to include them. I had no idea how important they would end up being. But it turns out shutting down basically your enemy's entire push into your base can really save you at the end of the day. I mean, you can imagine that was about five hounds rather that went down right there. You can imagine they probably would have been able to do a whole lot more damage if they had remained intact. Indeed, those pounders find the landmines as well and push them back. They don't really want to walk up that direction as they know that there's just so many landmines. T2 reinforcements being pumped out from the backline, by the way. Wonderfully done. Hound's going to be great for shutting down all those T1 spam. Forcing them into this direction over here. Excellent kiting, forcing the enemy units into the minefields. Trying to, at the very least. Yep. Those yellow units stepping on the landmines, dissuading them from going in that direction either. Caught into a terrible, terrible choke point. Sheldon around now, as well as some fiends. T2 production well underway right now by my associate here, my purple associate on the northern ground. Love to see it. Those fiends burning away whatever they can, and those Sheldons contributing that long-range firepower. Trying to devastate whatever they find. The landmines, though. Huge connections with the landmines. So many of these going down here. The Hound's forcing a lot of these Sheldon in this direction, meaning that they're going to be colliding once again with these mines. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful stuff. I didn't get a chance to really appreciate how intense the impact from these landmines was. But looking back at this, it absolutely seems like these landmines saved the day right here. Massive EMP connection as well. Jumps on top of all of these Hounds right here. You can see I move the commander forward immediately. Nice. Beautiful EMP bombing right there. And I can assure you it's only the first of a very, very successful, long and successful EMP bombing campaign. Send the commander forward to reclaim as much of this as possible. D-gun down some of those Hounds. Sacrificing the commander. Maybe a bit preemptive here, but at the very least eating up some of that metal right on that front lines here. EMP bombers will be a staple of this game, so I'm expecting a whole lot of good things. You can see more and more of them coming up from Atlas Failed here, who is playing the air position as an Armada commander. Always very powerful. Commander's getting dangerous and close to these landmines. It'd be a shame if someone were to step on them. Oh no, Spybot ran out of power. Ugh, that's unfortunate. Spybot runs out of power right there. Doesn't have the energy to keep its cloak up. Landmine's also running out of power here. Not ideal. You can see I try to solve this immediately by putting down a fusion reactor. I would only do this because these landmines are in position right here, right? So I know that they're going to have to push into my base through a literal minefield. Nice EMP connection, though. Stuns so many of these guys right here. Makes it very inconvenient to push forward. Oh no. Hounds, friendly Hounds walking through the minefield. Gotta be so careful. Care landmines, I do say in the chat. Trying to remind my teammates that it's important to make sure you're not stepping on those landmines. I was essentially expecting the enemy to step on the landmine, so I was intentionally letting them come forward here, but the Hounds are going to jump on top of all this, especially with those EMPs. Capitalizing on those stun units, definitely a lot more valuable. Just like that, down goes the entire comp that was pushing forward right here from the yellow commander. Reinforcements coming in right now, teetering right on the edge of destruction. Two Sheldon. The heroes of the day. Love that we have the Hounds in Gauss mode, by the way. Beautifully done. Firing away at whatever they can over here. Tuck trying to build a massive ball of Sheldon, but hasn't quite got the numbers all set up yet. EMP Bomber continues to connect with all this. Absolutely brutal. Shutting down bits and pieces of this composition, slowly but surely whittling them away. Pawns do jump on top of all these, though, so that's quite nice for the red commander. Manages to shut down a whole bunch of those Hounds right there. Rocket Spider still firing away, though, trying to get a good connection. Fusion reactor finally comes up. An exceptional amount of greed on my behalf. See, I produced a butler to eat up all these corpses as well. Absolutely had to. So much metal lying on the field right there, about 5,000 or so, all said and done combined between all the wreckage fields right here, so it's really important to get that metal back into the bank and use to build something right now. In this case, it's build power and eco. Needing desperately to eco on the back of this here. You can see the red commander who's been pushing forward in assistance with the yellow commander, all of them going for their fusion reactors as well. So as far as tech goes right now, I actually have a lead, at least as up against their backline position right here. Well, EMP Bomber coming in for the bombing run. Doesn't quite get it, but what it does do is provide a whole lot of vision right there, which is actually quite nice. allowed those Sheldon to get some killer shots off, as well as this rocket spider that's been firing away over here. Beautifully done. We do have sharpshooters coming up, by the way, on the southern side. I do see those. Very nicely done. Big old ball of Sheldon firing away once again at Link 74 on the southern side. Orange Commander not really going up the tech tree quite yet. Well, we do have a T2 lab out, but we're not quite into T2 production. We're going into a little bit more eco. I'd love to see maybe that T2 lab turned into eco, you know, dissolve it and turn it back into economy units. Right tank comes up, gets a single shot off, but it's about the most important shot that it could get. Yeah, a lot of these pawns taking heavy beatings from that that pounder that actually fired. A couple of them get into the back line right here. They are going to target. Ooh, they do target the energy converters. One of them dies for it. Gotta be so careful. EMP bombers will stun it, keeping it all safe. And now there's a spy bot out on the field. Pulling the trigger. Spybot connects, paralyzes the majority of these units for 17 seconds. You can see the welder production is starting up and running. Everyone was joking about the welders, how I praise them so much. Just wait till you see what the welders can do in this game. A couple of Spybots connect, and that means the welders can march forward. It's a slow but steady, ever-enclosing, entrenched death as those welders march forward. Their little... Oh, a nice follow-up EMP as well. The EMP bombing absolutely on point on this northern section here. Beautifully done by our air support, showing what those Armada air can do. That chain lightning from those welders, absolutely devastating all these clumped up units right here. Tug's commander pretty far forward here. Does get blasted in the face by some of that lightning, but manages to de-gun down some of the welders as well. Guess that's an equivalent exchange. Take some damage, do some damage. Groundhog a little bit stuck on that hillside over there. Would love to see it figure itself out. Bit of an AI pathing issue there. Very nicely done. So what I'm seeing here is that effectively we got our T2 push up and running. It means that we're going to be able to push back right here. But what I'm wary of is the fact that because they've been on T2 for so long, they might actually have enough forces to actually just go for T3. So I wanted to be careful with these units. Push forward and do some damage, but also be careful and make sure that when I'm pushing with these T2 welders, supported by the T2 hounds, I'm keeping an eye out for T3, because as soon as the T3 pulls out, I want to stop producing T2. I basically want to produce as little T2 as possible right now, and try and make as few units as needed and as many efficient trades as possible here. Sheldon firing away over here, beautifully done. Sorry, not Sheldon. Hounds firing away over here. Those T1s don't stand a chance. Sharpshooters obviously going to melt those apart as well. Blasting away at whatever they can. Sheldon ball is growing in mass over here. A lot of medium tanks. We could pull the trigger. Yeah, medium tank's going to launch forward here, actually. Okay, I don't mind it. Medium tanks getting on top of those Sheldon, or especially on top of those hounds. Definitely a good place for them to be. Unfortunately, though, there are some medium tanks already out and available for the Orange Commander as well, so that is not going to be a very efficient trade right there. Dark Green Commander forced into a bit of a tricky position. Rattlesnake does come up. That'll be quite nice. Firing away from long distance over here. I have a feeling this Rattlesnake's going to get some tremendous value out. Well, there are radar jammers in the mix, though, so as long as those radar jammers are protecting a lot of this, it's going to be difficult for that Rattlesnake to fire away at all this. Massive EMP bomber, though, connects with a huge ball of those hounds right there. Beautifully, beautifully done. Juno missile connects down south here as well. Takes out the radar jammer, meaning that the Rattlesnake can fire away. Massive connection right there. Tons and tons of those medium tanks go down. The shell shockers have a chance to fire as well. Oh man, these EMP bombers have absolutely saved the day right here. Shutting down so much of these T2 forces. Very, very nicely done. Just goes to show how impactful that Armada T2 air can really be. A couple of those EMP bombers can absolutely change the face of the tide of the battle right here. What a complicated sentence that was, huh? Love the Rattlesnake coming up. We even have the Shockwave coming up as well here. The EMP Shockwave. Not sure if I like it, actually. It's almost blocking the pathway for that Rattlesnake to fire. Not the end of the world, though. Sheldon blasting away at a lot of these welders. Always a tricky thing to deal with, those Sheldon. They can march backwards as long as you're marching forwards. Means that when they're kiting backwards, there's not really any point in chasing, so you're stuck in this battle where you have to push them backwards and then fall back, push them backwards and fall back. Very awkward. All the while they're shooting at you as well, so you're not exactly feeling great. Tim going for the necessities here. I've got a second fusion reactor up and running, going for that Citadel anti-nuke system, going for a anti-air as well on those flak turrets, and then eventually going into a... actually, maybe gonna abandon the flak turret here. I think in my mind I realized, wait a second, I have a really competent air player here. Oh, by the way, there's that T3 I've been looking for here. You notice the T2 stops a while ago. We're finally getting into sharpshooters here. Well, EMP bomber's not getting a huge connection with that. Fighters are pulled. Nicely done. Fighters shoot down the majority of the fighters that were sent up north here to try and deal with those EMP bombers. Really nicely done. Green player using those fighters effectively, leveraging them into an advantage over here. Armada T2 air player right here for the red team as well, but not using those EMP bombers nearly as effectively. Razorback definitely devastating this front line. A Czar has been out on the front lines here as well. Slowly but surely, these sharpshooters are going to make it to the front lines. We all know just how powerful these sharpshooters can be. On 2 fusion power, or 2 fusion production rather, sharpshooter production is pretty quick. You can see we get a couple of them out here every, I want to say maybe 20 seconds or so. We get a new sharpshooter out to the field. This is huge though. These Scorpion batteries are coming up slowly but surely. Very powerful for dealing with some of that T3 and especially that T2. Sonar plane handed over on this side as well. Really, really love the sonar plane hand. Very, very useful. The sonar plane, you can see, let me switch to my vision right here. Massive EMP connection in the meantime. So you can see the sonar plane giving perfect vision of what's going on over here, meaning that the Hounds, the Sheldon, basically all those siege units can fire at full clip. More massive EMP connections. These EMP bombers have absolutely won the battle on the southern side here. That Razorback gonna go down right here from just T2 fire. Another big EMP connection right there. Well, it doesn't manage to quite stun that one though. Sharpshooters are out. Gonna start blasting away at whatever they can. One of the Razorbacks goes down. Another one getting real low. See spy cameras still working over here on this side as well. Actually really interesting to see this battle from my perspective here, from the blue team perspective. Trying to align these sharpshooters in such a way. You can see this battlefield is very hilly and uneven right now, so it makes it very difficult terrain for these sharpshooters to deal with. So you can see I'm pulling them back right now, just falling back to these static defenses here, these Scorpion turrets that Sergeant Jim Bean has set up here. Very, very useful. Another Razorback does go down right there. Scorpion turrets firing away wherever they can. Beautifully, beautifully done. Resbots on the front line, meanwhile, picking up those T3 units. Love to see it. Massive EMP, though, does connect with a whole bunch of those Resbots right there, shutting them down for at least another 6 seconds. Really, really love that. Gonna mean that the resurrection on that, T3 unit doesn't actually connect right there. Razorback also blasted with some more EMP bombs. Massive EMP bombing right there. This is the pinnacle of Armada bombing technology, right? Dropping these EMP bombs, absolutely crippling to this entire push right here. Mammoth out on the front line even now. Sergeant Jim Bean trying desperately to push forward with the commander right here. Oh, that's funny. The Brown Commander Easy AI called out 2 anti-air or 2 air players. Ironically, it's actually just 1 air player. He's just handing over units, which is pretty funny. Bottom side, taking some serious damage. The sharpshooter ball has finally got up to significant enough numbers where they can start counter pushing here. Rocket spiders, just about basically everything. There's no radar bot in the mix here, though. Little bit unfortunate. Maybe going for some pinpointers wouldn't be the worst idea here. The first inefficient EMP bomber of the game. The very first one connects with a Twitcher over there, and I wouldn't even really say it was that bad, because of course it means that with those EMP bombs connecting, obviously that Twitcher is not going to be able to reclaim over here. Loads and loads of units pulled down south at this point as we realize, the red team that is, realizes, wait a second, we desperately need to find some way to push back on the blue team who is swarmed across the middle of the map right here. Loads of unclaimed metal extractors as well. Would love to see these taken by maybe the butlers running around the map over here somewhere. Razorbacks marching down south though. Definitely a pertinent threat. As soon as those Razorbacks become a force on the battlefield anywhere except on this front line where the sharpshooters are at, it's going to be really difficult to deal with them. Now, luckily, my teammate down here has some sharpshooters as well. Those will be quite nice for dealing with those Razorbacks. You do want to cloak them, though, just to make sure they can't get shot before they manage to fire. There they go. Blasting away those Razorbacks. Beautifully done. Yeah, those Razorbacks instantly regretting pushing over that hillside. Sharpshooters so powerful and in that many numbers. Really, really difficult to deal with. Massive EMP bomb once again connects with another one of those Razorbacks over there, scaring them off that line. Really nicely done. You can see the strategy I call out to my teammates. Push to pull the Razorbacks back. So the idea being, basically, we don't want these Razorbacks to go anywhere because we can handle them up on this northern side, but we desperately want them to, or we desperately don't want them to push anywhere else on the map where maybe their defenses aren't set up to counter Razorbacks. We're essentially tuned to counter Razorbacks on this northern side with the sharpshooters blasting away and the welders and all that sort of good stuff. Big ball of Sheldon over here. Sheldon very difficult to counter with the sharpshooters. Not really an ideal counter, but the Fat Boy is definitely going to be more than enough. Capable of firing away with a huge amount of firepower. We do have a tremor that was set up over here. Spybot giving perfect vision over on this side. At this point, it was a decision between either pushing into those Zars and trying to do as much damage as possible to the tremor, or EMPing all this. And I decided to try and blast away those Zars because they're so costly. And I feel like 1,500 metal down the drain is definitely difficult to justify here. So these sharpshooters blast away at those heavy tanks and eventually manage to push a little bit further forward here before being obliterated. Single shot goes off on the tremor, but does not manage to die. Brutal weapon of war, that tremor. More EMP bombs, though, connecting with those Razorbacks over here. If there's one unsung hero of this game that I'm definitely singing out loud, it's got to be these EMP bombers that are being microed absolutely phenomenally right now by that green commander, Atlas Failed, using them wonderfully across the map, providing fire support basically everywhere it's needed. Pitbull turret assisting these poor LLTs, as well as some of these hounds on the front lines over here. Juno missile set up here. That's a little unfortunate. Not exactly where that Juno was meant to connect with, but I guess it works. Yeah, still actually catching some of those ticks that are running through that area. There it is. Juno missiles, very tricky. You have to be very careful with them. They're a very limited resource, and they're quite pricey, actually. You have to be a little bit careful when you're using them, because you don't have all too many of them. EMP bombers coming back around for another run by. Drop their bombs. Managed to catch the Razorback right there. Beautifully, beautifully done. Marauder are now spotted from the backline here. Love the Marauder play. Link 74 using those extremely agile, extremely mobile units and pushing forward with them. EMP bombers connecting massively with this entire composition up here. Beautiful, beautiful play right there. Oh, I even said that. Beautiful. EMP connects with all of those units right there, shutting down that entire Sheldon ball, making it very, very awkward for the yellow player to continue pushing in right there. Stalling for time for these Grave Robbers to get all these Razorbacks back up and running. Desperately, desperately needed time. But it does manage to work out. Razorbacks now in position to deal with all this. Now that the Razorbacks are here, it's going to be really difficult for anything to break this line. Yeah, I mean, Grunt's basically exactly what those Razorbacks are happy to blast away at. Sheldon ball evaporating under the Razorback fire. Oh, what a field day. Those Razorbacks having an absolutely wonderful day at the range here, blasting away that entire composition. Gonna take down a Tsar here as well. Blasting into smithereens. Tons and tons of Sheldon go down as well. Really, really nicely done right there. EMP bombers couldn't be bigger in this game. Proper T2 late game up and running here with some T3 support. We do have a grunt spam coming out, or pawn spam rather, coming out here from the red player who's just sending him across the middle of the map. Always very tricky to deal with that, but some Razorbacks can clean it up quite nicely here. Pulsar was built in a panic, trying to shut down any of those Razorback that were pushing through over here. Right in the middle of the map, though, the red commander expressing a huge positional advantage. So many resources are going into producing all these units, and I just don't know if it's really worth it. A lot of ticks, a lot of pawns, all of it being spammed across the map. LLTs, though, gonna be more than enough to blast away most of these. Fat Boy's doing a decent job as well. Loads of res bots get caught in the fire right there of those hellhounds, blasting away. And these Razorbacks, man, what a devastating unit. Managing to take down another Tsar right here. Extremely costly unit, so really, really nice pick-off right there. Jim Bean does get resurrected over here as well. I should definitely get back to laying landmines over here. You can see the way the landmine layer over here, the groundhog, has not made much progress on this landmine. Nor do I think he ever will. Nuclear missile is up and running right here. Trying to get it to connect with something big. No anti-nuke for the maroon commander. No anti-nuke either for the eco in the backline right here for the red commander. Don't know if you could nuke that though because of that hillside. No anti-nuke either for the orange commander over here. Oh no, sorry, there is an anti-nuke over there. What am I talking about? We just desperately need some scout points sent across the map. You can see me asking for asking for a scout here, wherever possible. Razorbacks walking across the map, trying to at the very least. More EMP bombers coming in, trying to connect with those Razorbacks. Nuclear missile is launched, but it does get taken down by the anti-nuke right there. Unfortunately, that means that basically everybody is going to be happy to build an anti-nuke at this point. Would be surprised if we didn't see some anti-nukes coming up pretty soon. Nice catch with the Razorbacks down here as well. You can see I commentate these matches in my head regardless. Yeah, I can't help but commentate them, even when I'm playing in the game. Saying exactly what I'm thinking already. Razorbacks catching those EMP Marauder is so nice, though. Marauder, not the most expensive unit in the book, but when a bunch of Razorbacks catch them, it can be a really, really efficient trade right there. Just always beautiful to see. Nuke is up in the air. Coming down right on top of the yellow units, blasting away tons and tons of their forces right there. Loads of Sheldon do go down. Unfortunately, didn't manage to get all the vehicles over here, but tons of that composition blasted away. Very, very nice. Now is the chance. The Razorbacks can march forward. You can see I've got full-blown T3 production up and running as well. We've got Marauder coming out every second here. Little bit of eco going on. We've got 2 fusions, single advanced fusion. Definitely need to work on improving the eco over here. While we have the opportunity to eat up so much of this metal, improving the economy should definitely be a top priority. Finally, the push goes. The Marauders start marching forward here. Going to catch a whole bunch of the Tremors, which is always nice. Those do shut down basically all the T2 play. Marauder gumming up the defenses as well, getting all tied up in the guts and knots of this red commander's front line position here. Just like that, all those static defenses do go down, including those advanced exploiters. Well, there's a couple of advanced exploiters up in this hillside still. But taking down the majority of those advanced exploiters, really, really nice. Does mean that, at least for the time being, this area is a little more vulnerable to T1 harassment. 2 Razorbacks versus 1. Obviously gonna favor the 1 Razorback. They push up into the static defense. That will cost them their lives, surely. Can we get one of them? Oh, so low with that advanced exploiter. 4% remaining. Oh, no. Big nuke sent across the map, though. Oh, it collides with the hillside. Oh, no. I think it was aiming for the backline over here, but collides with the hillside. Still blows up a ton of build power over here, but unfortunate that it collided a little bit early with that hill. We could also nuke the yellow base over here, it looks like. Obviously playing with incomplete information here, so unaware of exactly what's available to nuke. Air Force is very thin right now for the Brown Commander. Yeah, gotta say, the Air Forces are looking quite thin. Huge force built up on this northern side, though. Uh-oh. Yeah, those Razorbacks and Marauder building in a big way. You can see tons and tons of unit being sent over here. I think I even noticed this. Hold on, let me switch to the blue team vision. Yeah, you can see we had a little bit of radar vision over here, so we can see the forces slowly starting to move in that direction. You can see the entire army shifting towards that side here. EMP bombers up and available. You can tell Atlas failed on top of it, ready to send those EMP bombers at a hair's, or at on a hair trigger rather. Ready to send them at a moment's notice, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Oh, there go those EMP bombers. Looking for whatever connection they can find. Nice scouting plane as well. Yeah, those oracles giving the advanced vision over here, allowing for a very, very reliable input of positional data. Landmines taking out a whole bunch of the chaff. Massive EMP connection right there on those Marauder. Manages to stun a whole lot of them. And here's the big fight of our lives. Razorbacks going down left, right, and center as the Karganet, the Razorback, and the Scorpion turret all blast them away. The trigger is pulled, and these Razorbacks are going to be more than happy to blast away a whole bunch of these grunts that are marching around as well. Well, Razorback looking real low on that side. More Marauder pushing through. Heavy landmines connecting with the Marauder, and indeed the push is held with the help of the landmines, the static defense, the airplay, and the T3 units, all in tandem. We managed to hold a vastly superior force of T3 right there. A brutal push, but it manages to go in our favor. Nuke connects, wiping away some of the chaff over here as well. T3 mostly resistant to those nukes, but the lesser units, the T2 and T1 units, going to be wiped away instantaneously. And man, look at that warped battlefield. Look at the absolute devastation on that battlefield right there. Did I mute the game? I did mute the game. Whoops. So epic, I had to mute it. Beautifully, beautifully done. You can see immediately I start up these T1 labs with a whole bunch of Resbots, starting to get Resbot production out and sending it over in that direction to resurrect. A feast fit for a king. And with that entire push, the red army is looking quite a bit thinner. Sharpshooters do get caught on the southern side. Looks like some EMPs did connect down here. Very nicely done. Sharpshooters dealt with. They were the major threat to these Razorbacks over here. It's good to see those blasted away. Oh, D-guns. Almost missing the D-guns right there. Missed 2 of them and caught the 3rd right there as Tim Essner does manage to retreat the commander right there. Razorbacks forced to retreat off this front lines. You can see me trying to self-destruct them here. Not gonna happen. Red Razorbacks continuing to push right now. More EMP bombs connecting though. Man, those EMP bombs have absolutely saved us time and time again. Providing so much value, making the efficiency here absolutely off the charts. One of those things that you just can't live without is the EMP bombers. They're just, they turn even the most inefficient fight into a pretty efficient one. You can see I was forced to take this fight right here because otherwise my teammate was in trouble, but the EMP bombers come through. They do connect with all of those Razorbacks and stun everything in that entire circle right there, meaning that all of this is more than happy to go down to the ground beautifully. Inferior force dealt with phenomenally by a whole bunch of EMP bombs. Very nicely done. And just like that, the red commander losing too much ground. So many units being thrown away here just because they can't really afford to keep it going. EMP bombers connecting with Thors over here. It looks like the brown commander realized, hey, wait a second. I have EMP bombers too. I can use those as well. A little bit too late though. Already the T3 army has been devastated over here. Not like Thors care too much about EMP bombs either. Bombers being built in mass. Atlas failed. Love to see it. Catapults being produced as well. You can see the Resbots now picking up whatever of this T3 they can. Resurrecting Razorbacks and, well, Razorbacks and Marauder. All sorts of different T3 units. Here they go, sweeping across the battlefield. I was very happy to park the Marauder over here just to thin out the air wall. These are all just T1 fighters here. Shutting down the airplanes over here is really, really nice. It does mean, of course, that the air player from our team is going to have a much easier time pushing in here. EMP bombers finally hit the field over here. Not too worried about it, though. The Marauder do have a little backpack anti-air missile, so any EMP bombers that linger over the Marauder for too long are going to get shot out of the sky. Definitely well worth it. A unconventional, but still very efficient trade. Marauder to EMP bomber. Razorback pushing forward right here. Sharpshooters trying their very best, but there's just not enough of them quite yet. Gonna get blasted down one by one over here. Eventually they bring down that Marauder, or that Razorback rather. More Razorbacks pushing in though. There's a couple of Pulsars built behind some T2 static defense over here. Actually really nice, shutting down a huge push from these Razorback. Beautiful static defense right there, absolutely love it. Yeah, you know what, if you're gonna build some static defense, you might as well make it efficient. There we go, eating up the Razorback as well. It's gonna be a nice little metal input for the Hot Pink Commander, who is going for an APHIS right here. Need more build power, if anything, at this point. Nice EMP bombing from the brown player. It does manage to connect with some of those T3 over there. Thors rolling and rolling and rolling. Oh, nuke connects. Massive nuclear connection right there. Blasts away all the T2 chaff, leaving only the T3. Perfect opportunity for the Marauder to get themselves all the way across the map. You can see him starting up a proper T2 economy at this point. Getting ready to go for a full-blown transition here. Resbots in mass, putting together this entire army. More than half of these units, or about half of these units, are probably all resurrected right here. Very, very valuable. That many resurrected units coming back in your face definitely hurts. Seeing that little halo and thinking, man, maybe that unit once worked for me. Here we go. You might see me split off this army right here. You can see I send forces down south as well as up north here so that these reinforcements can't just go up north. They have to deal with the units heading down south here. Anxiety standing in my way. Fairly accurate, I would say. Fusion reactor does pop. Bombers are sent up north here, taking this opening in the air wall. Bombers targeted immediately on top of the APHIS. Beautiful connection right there. APHIS pops and sends the yellow base back to the Stone Age. Beautifully, beautifully done. That's going to mean all the reinforcements that could have been pumped out by the red commander, by the yellow commander rather, going to be left in the dust here. T3 lab will fall here as well as the remainder of these T2 units. Beautiful, beautiful push. Thor over here using its EMP, or actually it might not even be using its EMP. It might just be the friendly EMP from some of those EMP bombers. Yeah, EMP bombers not very good against the Thor. Massive explosion down south there as well. Beautifully done. The Marauder are split. Some of them gonna peel off and head up to the northern high ground over here. Some of them ravaging the red base. Popping all of the energy infrastructure. Fusion reactor goes down as well. Build power chain reacts, and just like that, managing to use that push to claim a victory in this match beyond all reason. Goes to show just how devastating those res bots can be when you start building them in mass and resurrecting all those units, sending them back in the enemy's face here. And man, massive commendations to the green player. Oh, that's funny. Atlas failed, slept longest for 29 minutes. Absolutely untrue. Atlas failed everywhere on the map with those EMP bombers, doing the absolute very most, keeping this world on his shoulders indeed. Let me know if you like this kind of game, if you enjoy watching me commentate my own games. Always a bit unsure about it because it does feel a little bit, you know, egomaniacal to post a game that I already know the outcome of. But let me know if maybe it's helpful for you guys, maybe realizing some of the ins and outs of the strategy. Otherwise, sure hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you. Oh yeah, this is another thing I wanted to show about. Before I give my outro, this is the other thing. Look at this graph right here. So I had a way, way, way inferior army, but because of those EMP bombers managing to keep up with the red army on the field, but not at all in the economy right here. Just goes to show how efficient those Armada T2 planes are. All right, I'll let you go. Have a good one, and I will see you in the next game of Beyond All Reason. Peace out, everybody.